Welcome to the EAPTC Podcast, where we dive into global discipleship by exploring faith, leadership, and life-changing stories. And each episode is dedicated to inspiring and equipping you with insights and wisdom to grow spiritually, lead effectively, and live purposefully as a committed follower and disciple of Jesus. Thank you for tuning in. Here is your host, Dr. Paul Sungro Lee.
Hello, everybody. Did you know that more Christians have been persecuted in the past few years than any other time in the history of the world? And by this year, 2025, the number of Christian martyrdom is expected to reach 1 million people worldwide. And this is astounding. The global church is facing challenges like never before. Patrick Johnston, a well-known missiologist, once predicted that the global church in the 21st century will continue to face suffering just like it was in the 20th century. And he was right. Even in the early years of this century, Christians in different parts of the world have faced heavy discrimination and persecution. And here's the irony. Some of the greatest Christian growth and mission activities today is happening in those very troubled regions of the world. And what does that tell us? The challenges facing the church in the future will likely fall into three different categories, I believe. First, anti-Christian religious societies, places dominated by like Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and so on. Number two, atheistic societies, like those that are shaped by communism. And thirdly, I believe there is the part of the world that is secularized, so secularized to the point of postmodernism or postmodernism is dominating the societies. Some may call it even meta-modern societies. Friends, we are really living in a time of unprecedented persecution. For many years, UNICEF have worked across Africa and Asia to raise Christian leaders. And here is a striking fact. 48 out of the 50 most persecuted churches in the world are found in these two continents. The top 50 hardest places to follow Jesus include countries like Pakistan, India, Sudan, China, Myanmar, and even Vietnam. And yet in these nations, many of them more economically developed today than in the past, Christians still do not have liberty to worship the Lord freely. One such example is my EAPTC co-worker, I'll just call him John, in Vietnam. He is faithfully discipling young professionals in a difficult environment. And it is a joy to have him on this podcast today with us to talk about how the Lord is raising his disciples in such challenging places. Thank you for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you in this podcast. It's a joy to work with you in the kingdom of God. Let me start here. What does discipleship actually look like in a restricted environment like Vietnam? What kind of costs do believers have to pay to follow Christ? Could you share some of the examples and stories with our listeners?
Good morning from Vietnam, Pastor Paul. This is my privilege to be with you here today. Yeah, thank you for asking about the discipleship in Vietnam. Let me start it this way. To follow Christ in this country is very costly. So discipleship is costly, so it needs to be very intentional. Because when one person they following Christ, it may cost rejection, persecution. So they don't join the Bible study casually. To be disciple means to consciously choose Christ above the families, above their family honors, their family traditions, and even like for their like personal safety. So it makes discipleship become very challenging, but at the same time, it's very deliberate. People come knowing that it might cost them something. And because of like the situation is not quite open here in this country, so discipleship, it's more on like relational and life on life.
Right.
It unlike in places like where discipleship may be like program driven. Here in this area, in our places, it's like it happened through personal relationship. It built up a base built on like personal trust and one-on-one relationship, or at least we have like a small, very small group. So it normally happened that if I can use the word, the older Christian, older believer, they invest their life in the younger one. So they can like have time, pray together, share the meal, have a coffee together, and they can like walk through the daily struggles together. So it more like the relational and relationship, so that they can walk through the life together. And I just mentioned that it's happened. I will not say that secretly, but it is secret when like it come to discipleship, when we're not openly like reading the Bible, study the Bible in a public place, but it's like have very, very, very like personal conversation with one another, but we use those time to study the Bible together. And also because of that, when the discipleship happened, the one who be disciple and both, I mean, even the discipler, they also like learn how to embrace the risk they're gonna take. They have to share their faith carefully. They get themselves ready for like how to say, when the question come or people asking question about them, they need to be stand firm in their faith, and it need more like effort and patience to walk in the faith together with one another's, because especially with the new convert, new believer, they're facing a lot of like difficulty in their family, in their peer pressure. I mean, in their community. So it's really crucial for the church, for the believer, to help one another during this time, and to help them also being aware of like the risk that they're gonna take, and get them ready for that as well. So it's very important for the discipleship to happen early, to help the new believer as well when they first following Christ, and when the difficulty come, even the persecution, right in their own family. So they really need someone to really start walking with them through this very struggle. And because of the situation, I think discipleship will be, if we can say, like Bible center. It means that we take up, we not publicly study Bible. I mean, we can like have the group, or we have a big gathering to do like event on like classes on discipleship or Bible study. But we like meeting one-on-one, sometimes at home, sometimes in the coffee shop. But because of that restricted situation, we need to like take the advantage of that those time by like, okay, we're not using many other like resources or materials, so we go directly to the Bible, reading the Bible together, share. I mean, like I mentioned a while ago, that the older Christian share what they learn with the younger Christian. So it not program, it's not material, but I mean, it's more like, okay, walk through what I receive, I give, so that we can grow together. And I think one more thing that I can talk a bit more about the discipleship is that when someone, when a new believer, they become a Christian, they convert from families in our country, mostly like they have like Buddhist background or traditional, religion. So being a Christian, it means you are become like different from others. You are different from your family, your own family, your own community, your own friends group. And then we are Asian, we are more like community bound. So I mean, we live within the community. We want to belong to a community. So when you're the only Christian in the family, in your community, and you be isolated. So you still want to like feeling that you belong to the another. So discipleship process, discipleship that in the church, somehow we have to help to provide a new community, new family for the believer to belong to join into. So this one, when I share about this with me, doing discipleship and not just following like those material, going through this process, but at the same time, the church have to think how to provide for the new convert, the environment, the new family, new community that they belong to, that they can be part of, so that they not feel like, oh, I'm on my own. I'm out. I, get out of my own community. Now I not belong to any other family or community. So discipleship, sometimes that's the thing that we need to be concerned of here in this setting. Because of the situation of the country, discipleship should include suffering. So suffering is become part of the discipleship, or that when you become a Christian, you expect that the difficult will come, the challenge, the trial will come. It's not in terms of because of like following Christ is difficult, but at the same time, it's more like the persecution and difficulty it come from outside. The discipleship need to help to prepare a new believer for this as well. Let me share one recent story that happened with one of the sister in our church.
Sure.
She had been in relationship with my wife for a long time, and she have a chance to hear about the gospel, to have a time to read the Bible with my wife and another friends for quite some time. It took us a year and a half, or maybe even more. Their relationship it lasts more than like 4 years, but I mean in the last year and a half, it's more intense, intentional build and help her to know more about the gospel, and encourage and challenge her to become a Christian, or to step forward for that faith. So in the beginning of this year, after a long time learning, wrestling with herself and with this other thing, she finally overcome all the excuses. I mean, all the challenges that she think it may happen. So decided to profess her faith, to follow Christ, and to be baptized into the church. But that decision also very costly to her, because during that her husband is one of the very traditional Vietnamese guy who really seriously observe the tradition of the Vietnamese family, which he hold tight to, like ancestor worship. He hold tight to like preserve Vietnamese traditional in the family, which he like part of like Buddhist practices, and also like ancestor worship. So that become a tradition that he hold tight to. And when he heard of like his wife following Christ, one of the very difficult thing to accept or the very traditional Vietnamese guy. And he become very angry. He forbidden her to go to church, or he tried to make everything difficult to stop her from going to church, or to spend more time with other like Christian, meeting them, reading Bible study or other things, to the point that he asking for divorce.
Oh.
He separate herself from their son, the only child that she had been like loving care. She even quit her job to care for the boy. But now the father tried to separate her with the boy because he worried that she gonna like bring the boy to the church and be influenced by Christian thing that he worried. So for her, that had been like one of the things that keep her not like step up for her faith. But until this beginning of this year, she decided to do that, and that decision cost her like family. Up to this point, it's still very difficult for her to go to church every Sunday. So her husband is still very angry. He like make it very difficult for her at home. And every time that she need to go out with other Christians to study the Bible with my wife, gathering with other women in the church, or going to the fellowship or the Sunday service in the Sunday morning, it's still very challenging for her. He make anything difficult for her to do so. So that could be one of the example for us to understand that this discipleship is costly. Sometimes you have to choose between Christ and your family, your own family, your community, your comfort, even your own safety.
Yeah, we talked about this before. I remember our conversation in the past about the importance of dealing with the ancestor worship, especially in Asian countries. If you want to bring the people to Christ, it's something that they have to always tackle to have a full light of conversion lifestyle. Otherwise, people will always have some challenges here and there because of the tradition. My mind at this point is that when I think about the early church, they didn't pray for physical protection or an easier life. They rather prayed for God's will and God's mission to advance, and also for boldness to speak about Jesus with courage and grace. Even when persecution tried to limit their ministry, God's mission never stopped, but his kingdom kept advancing. I recall one of the books I read before by Samuel Wells, the book called Incarnational Mission. He describes 4 kinds of hostility toward Christians in the history of the world: anger, antagonism, agitation, and aggression. Which of these do you see most in your own context there?
It's a very thoughtful question. In Vietnam, if I can say that we see all 4 responses. But they appear in the different ways. I think the most common is angers within the family. Like I mentioned in the story that I shared a while ago, that when you become a Christian, it means you go against the tradition of the family. Right. You become different from the others. So the first response would be very the family member, especially the parents, the elderly, would be very angry. When you have a big family with the many generations, so that's a big problem, because you bring shame to the whole extended family. So that like causes a lot of anger. Some students, they become Christian when they come to the city, study, and they become a Christian. And when their family know about their new faith, they become very angry. They like even like forced the student to quit their study to go back to their hometown. Other like story, maybe they did like cut all the food allowance or the support for their study. That probably the first thing that happened. And nowadays, I think it happened a lot. Another like a sister she became a Christian recently in our church, and she's the only one the in her family to become a Christian. At first, she not sharing that with her family. She just like going to church and doing Bible study with my wife and some other people in the church. But then God really challenged or encouraged her heart to recently, I mean, she to share about that faith to the family. And she not dare to like face to face share that, so she wrote the letter to send to her parents.
I see.
And her family, her parents respond. At first, they thought that, oh, she only like, I mean, something happened with young people doing full thing at the time. But after a while, they realized that she serious about the faith, and they became very angry at her. So we see that happen very often in Vietnam context. But beyond the home, there is like antagonism in the community. Like I shared a while ago that when you become a Christian, and this one really happened more in the rural areas, in the mountain areas. When you become a Christian, people look at you suspiciously. They treat you with suspicion or sometimes like hostility, because you no longer one of them. You become different from them. So it's happened within the community where you live. On another level, from the government side, there's often like agitation from the local authority. When I said the government, but in the local level, when they learn that there's a like group of Christian in their area. When the group of Christian gathering, singing, worshiping, and do things, so it caught attention from the local authority, and they became very worried about that, because it may affect their work, and that they worry that it may bring, difficult or threat or trouble under their management in the area. So they start like bother, they start interrupt, they start like put difficulty on like the pressure on the group, on the church, especially they're targeting the leader of that Christian group. It's not happening sometimes like in the opposite way, but they do it in the many different way. But their goal is try to like, I should cure it, stop it right in the beginning. Because if like it happened almost everywhere here in the country, for the church to register with the government, you have to like gathering for 5 years before you process like registration. But in those 5 years, if you're gathering, it's illegal. So they would try any way to stop you, because that's illegal. If you cause attention, if you do things that it's not allowed, and then they will stop you. They will like pressure on you. They persecuted you. But the requirement is that you have to, you have to function. You have to do things in 5 years before you can process with registration. So and when I say registration, it doesn't mean that you will be like get permission to meeting or anything easy. They make that process really, they lengthen the process and make it really difficult. While the aggression is less, especially in the cities, but in certain rural or minority areas, it still happen. Christian may be like threatened, beaten, even forced to leave their home, kicked out of their village, and some even were jailed because of their faith. This not happen so much like before, but it still happen in some particular areas, especially like in the mountain area near the border or in some provinces, but it still happen. So generally speaking, if we say that all four of these responses we can see in Vietnam. And I think nowadays, the anger from the family become more common.
Especially those of us who are serving the Lord and following Christ in other parts of the world where there is obvious freedom. I believe we have different types of challenges, but also we all face some kind of troubles as we try to follow Christ, because the Bible says in 2 Timothy 3:12, in fact, everyone who wants to live a godly life in Christ Jesus will be persecuted. So a different form of persecution, whether it will be the form of a restriction and persecution in certain areas of the world, like where you live. And also there are people who are suffering in the name of temptations. Like, here in the US, for example, we have pressures from the society or temptations, corruptions, and even the snare of comfort, which leads us to get away from the truth of the gospel sometimes. And here is the irony. Persecution has never killed the church in history, by the way, but prosperity has. So I've noticed in my 30 plus years of ministry globally that temptation hampers more Christians in the long run than the persecution does. What is your take on that?
I think I have to say that I totally agree with what you said. The fact that the persecution did not kill the church, but it's been like growing the church, strengthen the church. But prosperity really weakened the church, and it caused more damage. I forgot to mention a while ago that to be a Christian in Vietnam, it's costly. You not just like be rejected by your family, your community, but you also like hindered from many other things in your life, like career and education barriers. If you're a Christian, you'll be hindered from promotion. You're not allowed to work in the government offices. You have less access to the opportunities, or even like in some case, it's more like you have to face like surveillance, harassment, discrimination. So you be questioned by people. You be isolated in the working area, in the working place. Even like now, it happened more that in especially in the rural area among the ethnic minorities, that when you become a Christian, you lost all your benefit, your support you have from the government, and you have to face even like suffering, being persecuted. In some cases that I did mention, that you're being kicked out of your home, forced to divorce, separate from family member, you even jailed, accused for some wrong accusation. Surprisingly, that for Christian who in those areas who go through those persecution, difficulty, their faith actually strengthen, grow. And I mean the spread of the gospel, I mean their bonus to share the gospel, I mean the spread of the gospel is faster than in the other area where life's easier. It's sad to say the church in our country nowadays, when the situation, especially in the city areas, the situation is getting easier. At some point, the government opened some door to have the church, like some group would be allowed to register their church, their denomination. Some church will allowed to have their own building, doing their things. Some church will allowed to do some big event. You allowed to gather a big, assembly to do things. So those kind of like openness, it make the church look like, oh, yeah, it's good. The situation getting better. But it's actually like distracted the church from their main focus. Many groups, many churches, they become like focus more on like, oh, we have to behave well so that we can be visitor, or we have to like focus on building the building. We need to spend all time, effort, all the church gather, all resources, all the power to have the building. And somehow it's abandoned the discipleship within the church. So the church body getting weaker. It's sad to say that some church, like the other years, focusing all the resources into like build the building. When they finish the building, they have very less members. The church become a smaller group, just a smaller group of the people sitting in the bigger building, and there's no life happening there in that church. Though really sad situation. The situation in Vietnam nowadays it's more open. It's less severe like before, but somehow it weakened the church. It caused the church like decline when like people start getting focus on other things rather than strengthen the church, strengthen the discipleship in the church. They distracted from, instead of like center around the gospel, the truth, they center around the event, the building, or the event that they could do, the activity that they could do here and there. And I think the focus is being shifted to another, like, I don't think that it's a healthy way for the church. I have opportunity to travel around the country, meeting with different people, attending different churches, have the time to talk to some of the leaders, and I realized that the situation that happened in many places. So yes, I think that one of the things that we've been praying for, that as the Bible said, that when we follow Christ, we should expect that difficult will come, the suffering will come, persecution will come, because we will not belong to the world, and the world hate us because we're not with them. Now I think when we see the people, the world seems somehow like make them, welcoming them to be even though they're Christian, they belong to Christ, but they forget about it, and they somehow shifting back to, okay, I want to belong to this world, to be like belong to this community, to be more accepted by the people, by the world. So somehow, I mean, it's distracted, and then it shifted the focus of the Christian, and it caused the church to decline. And it's happening now in our country. So we have been praying for the discipleship again to be strengthened, to be teach, to be like aware by the leaders of the church, by the pastor, to again to really bring people back to the very center of their life. Yeah.
I agree with you. So whether we live in a free world or a restricted world, the moment we shift our eyes from Jesus and to other things, including like a man or anything that we might want to please apart from the Lord himself, I believe we are on a downhill, and our spiritual life, our discipleship is not healthy in that context and also in that essence. Final thoughts you want to leave behind as you wrap up this time with us today? Anything maybe also we can pray for you? Could you just share freely what you want to leave behind for your final thoughts, please.
One thing that I learned for the past years is that, especially like from our own context, our own situation in Vietnam, when the church like starting shifting their focus more on like the other thing rather than focusing on Jesus, I realized that the life of the church is not about like how big you are, how beautiful the building that you have, how many activity that you have. The life of the church is actually happen in the discipleship process, in the relationship between the Christian, in the way that you have many, like one Christian have many touch point during the week. It's not about the Sunday service only, about the activity of fancy band that you have, but it's only during the week. You, one member of the church, you have the opportunity to interact with one another. The conversation that you have with one another is about like checking on the spiritual life with one another, checking how is your life going, what did you learn about God this word this week. So I believe that will help the world to see the life of the church. It not happen on your 2-hour Sunday service, but it happen in the life of every Christian during the week, but in the working place, in their home, in their like coffee time with one another. This helped to see by others. I think the church again need to be pay attention to really refocus on the discipleship within the church to help people really live together their Christian life, walking together with their Christian life. I think one thing that several things that if people can know and pray for the church in our country, I think, yes, first, pray for perseverance. Persecution is to happen in many different ways. So pray that the Christian would stand firm in their faith, even when they face a lot of like pressure or difficulty from family, from their peer, from their community, or even from the authorities. Pray for the wisdom for the church, for the leaders of the church, and for the wisdom of every Christian to know when they should be bold to live out their Christian life, but at the same time they know how to respond to the people in the way that they testify become a witness to their faith. One of the things that we need really need the prayer is that for the unity of the church in Vietnam. The churches that could sit down, work together. We are made different in one way or another, but we are all Christ's body. We are working for His kingdom. So pray that God will unite people, the churches, especially the leaders, so that we can have the kingdom mindset, so that we can sit down and work together, pray for one another. And we, at the same time, we also pray for open doors. The Lord will open the doors for the church to grow and to impact the society. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Friends, I really pray this conversation encouraged you, most of all, to renew your love and passion for Jesus, and also to remember and pray for our fellow Christians in the global body of Christ who are constantly paying the price of suffering for our Lord's name. John, thank you for joining me today. Your insights and stories will be such a huge encouragement to our believers and the listeners who are joining us today. May the Lord continue to strengthen you, stand with you, and multiply the gospel impact through your ministry. And know this, you have many people who are standing with you in prayer.
Thank you very much, Pastor Paul. Yeah, may God bless you and your work.
And to all our listeners, if this podcast has been an encouragement to you and you'd like to go deeper about how to overcome the suffering and temptation as you follow Christ, I encourage you to check out my book. It's called Doing Missions in Difficult Contexts. You will find the oral information in the podcast description later on. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Don't forget to follow this podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, God bless.
Looking to grow as a disciple maker and leader? EAPTC Academy offers practical, hands-on discipleship training to equip you for Christian ministry and missions. With a 9-month program and flexible study options, you'll receive first-hand guidance to fulfill the Great Commission. With a global reach and multilingual courses, the Academy partners with churches to empower individuals to live out the Great Commission. Whether through guided cohorts or independent study, EAPTC Academy prepares you for impactful ministry. Visit eaptc.online to learn more.
Thank you for being part of the EAPTC global family. United, we can reach every life, every community, and every nation for the glory of God.